Hi, this is Hank reporting from Kyiv, and this is my update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's see what happened around Ukraine in the last 24 hours.
First rank captain liquidated. 70-year-old prop tanks go to war. Strange Trophied Leopard tank. Ukrainian traitor complains to enemies. 2 Russian laws we benefit from. First ever K-52 down by a drone. New Russian drone Lightning. Weird paintings of Putin. Drones and missiles attack stats. Russian losses in a war. In the Russian-occupied Crimea in the city of Sevastopol, the commander of the 41st Brigade of Missile Ships of the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Federation, Captain First Rank Valery Trankovsky, was liquidated. Unknown Avengers placed an explosive device under the bottom of his car, and you can see how the car was torn apart. In particular, this man is responsible for the missile attacks on the Ukrainian city of Vinnytsia in the summer of 2022 when 29 people were killed. You might remember those horrible pictures of children in the street. Personally, I had a row with my pro-Russian relative from Mariupol who said it was staged. I blocked her and then she died. Unfortunately, we never made peace. This is what he looked like in life. The security service of Ukraine confirmed the elimination of the war criminal. As they say, karma overtook the hero, and I hope his other accomplices will think about it. It's not that they didn't think about it before, but when you see how your commander who gave orders to kill children is torn apart by an explosion, this gives food for thought. Maybe some of them will get scared and make some big mistakes sometime soon. We'll see. This is the result of his criminal orders. Trankovsky gave the order to launch caliber missiles at the center of peaceful city. He also controlled attacks on the south of Ukraine, in particular the constant raids on Odessa. I would like to hope that there will be less shelling now, but I'm afraid to be too optimistic. Nevertheless, the destruction of high-ranking enemy is a success for us. Now, a moment of sarcasm. The Russian army is doing so well and winning so much that the Mosfilm studio gave them all the prop tanks that were used in the filming of endless movies about the Second World War. The director of this studio, which throughout its history has been filming propaganda for Soviet Union and then for Russia, Karen Shakhnazarov, said that they handed over 28 T-55 tanks, the newest of which could have been produced in 1958. That's at least 66 years old. It's crazy. Also 8 PT-76 tanks, which were built from 1949 to 1951. That means the newest one is 73 years old. 73, Carl. Plus 6 BMPs and 8 tractors. This is what PT-76 looks like. A miracle of engineering. 73 years old. He'll be surprised when he meets a super modern FPV drone with a night vision camera and a thermobaric charge that will burn him through. Yeah, of course I laugh at this disgrace, but I understand that even these ancient canned goods can drive and shoot, or stand in defense and shoot if they can't drive. If you were killed by an ancient cannon, it doesn't change anything, you are dead. So we'll have to dispose all of this junk too. Judging by the general staff statistics, they'll last about a day. The good news is that the Russians will most likely stop making these endless movies about World War II because they won't have such props anymore. For Russian propaganda, this is of course another so-called victory. As you know, they do not disdain to brag about pretty much everything. In this photo you see a Russian who, so to speak, trophied the Leopard tank. This photo has already been dragged around Russian news channels, and there is of course a nuance here. If you look closely at the casing, you will understand what kind of tank it is. As they say, if our partners do not give us more tanks, we build them ourselves, lol. Our favorite column, Traitors and Idiots. In the photo you see Ukrainian deputy Artem Dmitruk, who fled from Ukraine to Great Britain and is currently in the process of extraditing him to his homeland. This is a very strange case. In short, this guy fiercely defends the Russian church in Ukraine, got in a fight with a Ukrainian soldier, promotes pro-Russian narratives in every possible way, and has now given an interview to the main Russian propaganda channel in which he tells miracle stories. Quote from the picture. The Kursk operation is exclusively Zelensky's ambitions, stupid, bad, wrong. And also, that they tried to kill me twice, kidnapped me and tortured me in the basements of the security service in Ukraine. I'll say this, you have every right to criticize Zelensky in Ukraine, we have a free country, but you have no right to do this together with our enemies. When you are here and help defend the country, its existence, you can be in the opposition, that's okay. But when you flee abroad illegally and criticize the government in a conversation with enemies, you're a traitor and you deserve what is done to traitors during a war. This story is here to clearly show how difficult it is now to fight internal and external enemies at the same time. Interesting news from the occupiers. It is difficult to explain such information to people who do not speak Russian, but it's an important indicator of changes inside Russian army. This news consists of two parts, and such innovations are designed to save money on the war, and as a result it will directly affect the mood of Russian soldiers and the number of people willing to fight. This is why the news is important. As sources in the army of the occupiers write, now everyone is financially responsible for lost or destroyed property. The fine is limited to a month's salary. In simple words, if Gerasim from Siberia lost a drone, he will pay for it with his own money. If we shot down Gerasim's drone, he will most likely pay for it with his own money. I know very well how, for example, our soldiers take care of the drones that our state gives them and try to use drones that we volunteers give them more often because precisely of bureaucratic conditions. This means that Russians will now save expensive drones and night vision glasses so as not to get a fine for expensive equipment. I've already seen dozens of messages in different groups where they complain about this innovation, and for us this is great news. The second part of the news is possibly even better. Now the Russian army limits payments for injuries. In this picture I've written out data on how much Russians receive for injuries. These are figures in dollars at the approximate current exchange rate of their rubles, but this doesn't mean that they can buy dollars for this money so easily or that they receive exactly this amount at all. Most often they are deceived by commanders who control the payments, and this system has given rise to a lot of fraudulent schemes including bribes and extortion, which are beloved by Russians. As you can see, earlier a Russian could count on about $30,000 in compensation for a light injury, and there were a huge number of those who stuck their leg out of the trench to get a bullet and go home with their $30,000 in pocket. A serious injury has several categories. On average they received from $41,000 to $82,000 provided that they received it. And now after signing this new law they can receive a maximum of $30,000 for the heaviest injury at the discretion of doctors. Everyone else will receive a minimum and the rehab period will be not paid. This event outraged all those who like to make money on war, and for us it's a very good indicator that Putin is cutting expenses rapidly and that Russians will be less tempted to go fight against us. Yeah, this will not stop all the idiots, but a certain percentage will drop out. There is information that we shot down the main combat helicopter of the Russian army K-52 Alligator with a drone for the first time, which Putin praised, they're calling it a flying tank. Well, for every tank we have a cheap deadly drone today. We have already shot down a helicopter of the MI series. They are older, but at the same time it was the first case in the world of shooting down a combat helicopter with a drone assembled in a garage. Here is a portrait of the captain of the helicopter before the flight. Look how friendly the man looks sitting in the cockpit before flying to seize foreign land. No pangs of conscience. He just flew to kill people in a foreign country for money. Well, you have received your well-deserved reward. This is a new model of the Russian drone called Lightning. As you can see, they are expanding their line and making the components as cheap as possible. In fact, it is assembled from shit and sticks. The Russians are now attacking Kharkiv from north with such drones. This contraption flies up to 25 miles or 40 kilometers. The combat load is about 10 pounds or 5 kilograms. The war has exhausted both countries and we are trying to find cheaper and more accessible means. It would seem that it's time for the Russians to retreat because they cannot capture all of Ukraine, but no, they are stubbornly crawl forward and all we can do is destroy them and any of their equipment. I hope you are not eating right now because this isn't a very pleasant picture. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to your attention a special type of cringe, an exhibition dedicated to Putin. An elderly lady enthusiastically tells you that this is a collection from the famous Tretyakov gallery, and she describes in high terms how beautiful this collection of paintings is. They're not being ironic, this is not a joke. How do you like Putin in his underwear? Let's get away from the fact that he is disgusting. How weird is that? Well, just an old man in his underwear. I don't judge. If he wants to squeeze C closer, that's his personal taste, but then again, how weird does it look? Oh, that's a good one. A very good work. I would definitely leave this one. In general, the US elections have passed, Trump didn't stop the war in 24 hours, and the Russians did not stop attacking us. The show goes on. This photo is from the suburbs of Kyiv a day ago. They put a fire after a missile attack. A woman was injured, but fortunately no one died this time. In total, over the past night, the Russians launched 59 drones at our cities, and we were able to shoot down and land all 59. It seems that for the first time we have 100% efficiency. I'm grateful to everyone who is helping us strengthen our air defense systems. These figures concern only attacks on our cities. Along the front line and border towns, the Russians launched 2 missile strikes, dropped 179 aero bombs, and launched 1,677 FPV drones. Huge numbers, and they are not getting smaller, unfortunately. Since I don't have time to make videos every day, the statistics are not for every day of the war either. Here I took the data from the past 2 days where we eliminated the maximum number of occupiers. The death machine is spinning at full speed. On the 13th, minus 1,770 Russians. On the 14th, 1,690. It's simply impossible to imagine this number of people who are going to die for money. As our intelligence says, only a few are currently fighting there for some idea. Everyone goes for money. What a society. At the same time, information appeared that at the moment we have more than 54,000 cases of missing Ukrainians. This is a terrible number. It includes military and civilians. Personally, I have 4 people on this list at the moment. I do not know if they are alive. And this only concerns those cases of missing people in occupied Mariupol that I know about from my circle. I do not know exactly who else is missing and who else is dead. This will most likely have to be found out throughout my whole life, and it all still feels like a bad dream. As you can see, yesterday we destroyed a decent amount of enemy equipment, minus 19 tanks, minus 51 heavy armored vehicles, minus 64 artillery systems, and another minus 124 cars and trucks. As for the front line, I will refrain from assassinating while there is a movement in both directions. There's also a destroyed dam in Donbass and I'm waiting for details. But most of all, the news feed is completely occupied by information about appointments to Trump's team. I'd like to skip a couple of months and just study what will be officially presented after the inauguration and not wade through this jungle of speculation and endless articles called maybe and probably. I need facts. I like things that can be confirmed and understood unambiguously. For today, this is all the news from me. Thanks to everyone who supports me and watches my videos, and hey, there are already over 1,000 of you. Thank you for your attention, take care, and I hope to see you tomorrow.